Boom, boom. Welcome to episode 2 of the WikiLinks podcast. Thanks for coming back. I think it's quite remarkable that you've bothered after listening to episode 1, but we're back for episode 2 of this. Can you hear that? That's the D man, Big D, the Dick. Say hello, Dean.
Hello, good.
That had a sort of a jackass quality to it.
I am a jackass, if nothing else.
You've added a slight a British twist to that name, haven't you? There.
I have. I'm trying to remember my roots, seeing as I'm on the other side of the world. I could quite easily forget that I'm British. I already on the phone. I'm quite like, hey, how you going, mate? You know, hey, yeah, you call, yeah, nah, yeah, I can.
Do people over there pick up that you're foreign, or do they all think you're a local?
No, most people can tell. I think initially they think I'm Australian because I do the whole, hey, how you going, mate? And then I can't keep it up, so they're probably like, is this guy taking the piss or what the fuck?
So it could potentially offend some people.
It definitely could.
I mean, we're used to that, aren't we, really, as people notice from this show?
Exactly. Probably offending people on a daily basis.
And do they say arse or ass out there?
Arse.
It's kind of like a mixture of the two.
It is. It's that I would just describe Australian as a mix between British and American, but
arse,
yeah,
a bit almost Scottish.
Almost. I think there's a kind of Scottish, Irish, Welsh, What?
Scottish, Irish, Welsh, and Mongolian. Is that what you were trying to say?
And Mongolian, yes.
I didn't realise that was. It's new to me. Let me play the tune. There you go. We didn't realise that the Australian people were largely
descended
Mongolian,
from
the Mongolians. Yeah.
Yes, when Genghis made it to these shores back in the 12th century,
he captured a load of British criminals and took them over there with him. Did he?
He did. That was how the first penal colony started in Tasmania.
So there you go. I mean, anyone who's listening to this who's under 16 hasn't done their GCSEs yet, which in fairness, this is probably the demographic that it will appeal to. They use something for your history lessons there.
There you go. Everything else potentially is factual or at least taken from Wikipedia. But this early bit is just us spouting from our arseholes.
We must actually put out there that we do realise that not everything on Wikipedia is true, but that doesn't affect the game, does it?
It doesn't. As long as it's written there, we can take it on face value. But yeah, you don't have to believe it. You just have to accept that each link leads to the next link, and that's it.
And so, speaking of links, who wants to go first this week? Do you want to go first, or should I?
Well, you went first last week, so why don't I challenge you first? Okay,
great. I mean, I'm leading 2-0 from episode 1, so hopefully you found something quite difficult for me, I would assume.
I'm hoping so. And it's going to be a bit of nostalgia to kick us off. We're late 80s children. You'll remember this one, I think, George.
Go on.
Oh, it's Captain Planet.
The anticipation.
And the Planeteers. Captain Planet and the Planeteers.
Is that the full page, yes?
That's the full page. I think if you type in Captain Planet, you'll get to it anyway. But it is Captain Planet and the Planeteers.
I did. I mean, anyone who doesn't remember that show, which, I mean, could be quite likely, seeing as we're probably considered old now.
We're getting quite old.
A group of children, various races. They were nice and all-encompassing. I think there was a Chinese girl, an American boy, a boy from the jungles, which is slightly odd, a Swedish girl, and I think an African boy, wasn't it? All got together and to try and save the environment, they used their powers, combined their powers, and summoned Captain Planet, the ultimate environmental hero.
Yes, they used their rings. They put their rings together. No euphemism intended.
And where do I have to get to from Captain Planet and the Planeteers?
And the Planeteers. And now you may find yourself in tears later because I'm challenging you to get to gentrification.
Wow. Okay. Captain Planet, who actually had sort of a turquoise skin, to gentrification.
And you might be going purple yourself later, George.
Now, I believe the act of gentrification is... I was listening to a podcast about gentrification only a few days ago, so that's strangely... strangely prophetic.
Could hold you in good stead.
It was the Serial podcast, which is actually apparently the most listened to podcast in the world. I think it's now the most popular podcast in the world, Serial.
Wow.
But they haven't. Nobody's heard this yet. So as soon as this is out, we'll knock that off the top spot.
Exactly. Give it time.
So essentially, gentrification, unless I'm wrong, is when ethnic minorities are essentially moved out gradually from an area, and more middle class, white, rich people then gradually move into the area. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always struck down the lines of race. There's certainly a lot of poor white working class people in metropolitan centres that are subject to this as well. But of course, yeah, there is disproportionately. It is often minorities. And have you got any idea of how you're going to get from our friend Captain Planet to the idea of gentrification?
Well, gentrification seems like somewhat of a socio-political event, sort of, and
issue.
Yeah, issue is a better word, and as is environmentalism. So there might be some sort of link there. Maybe I could find some sort of I don't know if people protest against gentrification. Does that happen? Do you have people with signs saying "Stop gentrifying Brixton now"?
It's entirely possible. It is. Brixton does love a good riot, so why not?
Now that is a very interesting point. Again, for anyone who hasn't watched Captain Planet, I guess it's not that interesting. But for anyone that did watch Captain Planet, I'll play this noise. And now I'll tell you that the voice of Gaia in the cartoon was done by Whoopi Goldberg.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day.
Now, did you know that before we landed on this page?
I didn't, no. I did enjoy the film Sister Act, which I believe she was in when I was a child.
Now, an interesting point here. Gaia in the cartoon is portrayed as white. Whoopi Goldberg is black. So if this were The Simpsons now, she would be sacked, and they would employ a white voice actor for Gaia.
Really? Is that a thing?
Yes. Did you not know this about The Simpsons?
No. What, they've intentionally sacked anyone who didn't fit the profile? Yeah, they're not.
No one is allowed to voice a character that isn't their own skin color. A couple of the actors have left because they don't agree with it. Some of them have said it's a good idea. It's up to you what you think of it. But pretty odd. So basically, Apu can no longer be. He was voiced by, I think, Hank Azaria, and obviously Hank Azaria is white, but that's now considered offensive.
Right.
Yes, I think your reaction has summed up your opinions on that. Dr. Hibbert, of course, was a black doctor. He that's right. He can't be voiced by a white actor. They need to employ Indian and black voice actors.
Rather than killing the show, which is clearly what it's going to do, and they should just put it to bed now before just destroys the legacy of what was one of the best shows
you could have said that. You could have said that about 10 years ago for Simpsons, but go on.
But literally, like, that's got to be the final nail in what is a very thick coffin.
Yeah, it is a strange event, isn't it? I mean, we're all for inclusivity. That's the word. We're all for inclusivity in the workplace. But I mean, that it does seem a strange move to make after people have been voicing the characters for decades,
30 years plus. Yeah,
to then say no, this is not allowed. We need to employ people of that skin tone.
And I do feel for shows like South Park, because we're living in a day and age where it seems like you just can't joke about anything. You can't pretend to be anything you're not without it being some sort of offensive thing. So yeah, I really don't know where it's all heading.
And I mean, it does bring to mind as well, I mean, half the cast are yellow. So what is their plan? Employ people with jaundice to voice the yellow characters? It just seems a bit odd.
Well, it's certainly equal opportunities.
Isn't it? Yes, you get all sorts of races and people with jaundice, and then everyone's employed. And just fuck off the original actors. They've got enough cash. Exactly.
Everyone's a winner.
So I'm thinking of going to, I don't know why, but I'm thinking of clicking on Whoopi Goldberg.
Why not?
Because I feel like she's involved in many movements, isn't she? And that might also, I'm sure she's involved with Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. And that could possibly link me to gentrification somehow.
It certainly seems pretty good to me, mate.
So I'm going to do that. There's my first click. Number 1. I'm on Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi.
which is not her real name. Do you know her real name, or have you seen it?
I'd be lying if I didn't say I hadn't just seen it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a shame. I could have made you guess, but you've seen it.
I wouldn't have guessed Karen Elaine Johnson.
No, I don't think I would have either. What would you have guessed at?
Steve Johnson.
Well, Whoopi Goldberg's name, she wasn't born Steve Johnson. She was born Karen Elaine Johnson.
She might have identified as Steve Johnson.
Well, because you can identify as anything you like now, can't you?
Exactly.
And I mean, why not? I don't have a problem with that. If you want to, you can identify whatever the hell you like.
Definitely. I've identified as some very strange things in my time.
I identify as an idiot operator of a tin pot podcast, and that's fine.
And I identify as your even more idiotic sidekick.
So at least we're fulfilling our needs. So I'm just looking through Whoopi Goldberg's page. I'm trying to see if it has. There's a subsection in here for other ventures, and one of them is philanthropy and activism. So I'm going to go down to that.
Okay. And before you move on, I have to stop you here. Did you know that she stated that her stage 4 name Whoopi was taken from a whoopee cushion?
I didn't see that. I didn't know that. But I would like to know more if there's more information on it, Dean.
There certainly is. There's even a quote that accompanies it. When you're performing on stage, you never really have time to go into the bathroom and close the door. So if you get
the door. Hold on. So she has time to go to the bathroom. She's like, right, I need a shit. I can run off. But I'm in such a hurry, I just don't have time to close the door.
Exactly that. So she continues, if you get a little gassy, you've got to let it go. So people used to say to me, you're like a whoopee cushion. And that's where the name came from.
Wow. And that is it deserves one of those noises. But what about her surname? Why has she picked a traditionally Jewish name of Goldberg?
Well, apparently Goldberg is part of her family heritage, she says, just like being black. And she said, I just know I'm Jewish. I practice nothing. I don't go to temple, but I do remember the holidays.
Wow. So I did not know that Whoopi Goldberg associated with Judaism.
She identifies as a Jewish person.
Wow. This is also, we're really learning lots here.
And also a whoopee cushion.
And a whoopee cushion, yes. And am I wrong in thinking, is she gay? Or am I just wrong? I haven't read down. I thought in my head, is she homosexual, Whoopi Goldberg?
She's been married 3 times to 3 men, I think.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's just been involved in the LGBT community.
You don't need to be gay to be involved in the LGBT movement. I've been involved in the Pride Parade in Brighton many a time.
That was an interesting event, wasn't it? I was dragged along also. I say dragged along, not because I'm a homophobe and I wanted
slur as well. Dragged along.
And I wanted to to spit on those people or anything like that. I'm fully supportive of everything, but I don't particularly like crowds. So when I heard that Dean and another gang of my friends were going down to the Gay Pride March to march and hand out leaflets, I wasn't thrilled, but unfortunately I was so young I didn't really stand up for myself too much. So I ended up marching around Gay Pride with an open shirt, handing out leaflets in a big crowd, and just having many people sort of wink at me and blow kisses, which I suppose I should like, really, shouldn't I? You
should enjoy the attention. It's probably more attention than we got at any stage at that age.
Yeah. It should have been the best day of my life, really.
It should have been.
There are a few links in here. There's one of the clicks is violent extremism.
That could be good, just for the sheer
just for the crack. Yeah. The National Rifle Association's in there. March on Washington, bisexual, transgender. There's a link for straight people.
Now that could be good.
I just don't see how straight people is going to get me. It's going to get me closer to gentrification. I need something more to do with race. I would have thought, because race or money or something along those lines. Anyway, do you see in there's a subsection in there for personal life, and one of the clicks within this. Are you ready to hear what one of the clicks is?
I'm ready.
Blackface.
Ah, yes. Nice.
So that's it's generally white people painting black face paint on themselves and prancing around in what is now considered deeply offensive. Well, it's not considered deeply offensive. It is deeply offensive.
Is deeply offensive. Yeah. See, a white person voicing a black character on The Simpsons is one thing. I really don't see the problem with that myself. But yes, certainly minstrels, blackface, pretty disgusting, especially in the cultural context of what it was used to sort of portray back in historical times. No, and I think we should probably move on.
Now, I know you just said move on, but I'm tempted to click on blackface.
Okay.
Because that will surely link to some black rights issues.
It's not a tedious link. I think it's potentially.
So please bear with us while I do my second click to blackface. We can't blame you if you do want to click off at this point. That turn off. That's absolutely fine, because we are in some rather getting into some deep waters here.
I must admit, when I chose Captain Planet and the Planeteers to gentrification, I didn't expect after 2 clicks to be on blackface.
No, you probably didn't. And if you had assumed that, you may have changed your WikiLink.
I may have chosen something else. Yeah.
Now,
I'm hoping we can move on fairly quickly at this stage.
There is a sentence here that says, happy-go-lucky on the plantation, or the dandified. Now, that is all going to have to be bleeped. You will have all just heard a lot of bleeping noises. That's because they're very non-PC terms on here.
I do believe that this page will lead to some interesting, serious movements and things. So yeah, I think you're on a good path. It's just a shame we had to come here to get to this point.
It's a huge page, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
it really is big. There is an awful lot of information on here if people want to come and read about it. And I didn't realize blackface, which is the name of this page, has been done in so many different places. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Netherlands, Canada, Cape Verde, China, Europe, Finland, Germany, Guatemala, Iran, Japan, Mexico, Panama, Portugal, Brazil, Puerto Rico, South Africa, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, United Kingdom, and Russia.
Yeah.
All have cases of historical blackface.
It's pretty messed up.
Now, you've got to say whether sometimes, I think in the early days when this was being done, you have to say, was it done with the intention to hurt and offend? And I don't think it was, but unfortunately, we've moved on enough now to understand that the intention doesn't necessarily rule out offence, does it?
No, and you can fully understand anyone taking offence at anything to do with this. And I do believe at the time, even if it wasn't intended as offensive, that there would have been a lot of offence caused.
Yes, absolutely, and I think you have to. At some point, take a step back. I mean, you can't say that anything that anyone chooses as offensive must be banned, because then at some point everything will be banned. But it's assessing that line, isn't it, which can be tricky.
Yeah, definitely. And something interesting here, up until 2017, participants in the Lewis bonfire, now that was just down the road from where we were living when we were in the UK, very famous bonfire tradition. They actually used to do blackface right up until 2017 in their depiction of Zulu warriors. So just goes to show that the tradition even lived on until very recent times.
I'm hoping
you'll find your next link quite shortly, to be honest.
Quite quickly to get off this. It's just such a big page. Now, there's also a click for whiteface, which I didn't know was a thing.
I really would like you to click on whiteface. I know it's probably not the best thing for...
I mean, I've hovered over it, and it's essentially it's the same as blackface, but white. It's people of a darker complexion dressing up in white makeup.
Now, to me, that doesn't seem offensive, because it's kind of almost like maybe I should take offence. I don't know. It's a strange.
Are you offended? Would you be deeply offended if a black person dressed in white makeup?
No, because I don't think black people have historically suppressed white people. So to me, it's kind of it's almost like, well, they should do that just to go like, I don't know.
And if one of your white friends turned up to your house in blackface, would you be offended?
I'd be spun out, I must say.
Okay, yeah, that's probably a fair answer. We're getting into some quite deep, sticky water here, aren't we?
We are. That's why I'm really hoping you move on.
I'm trying to get off. I mean, I for the sake of humanity and racism, I could just click anything to get off this page. I mean, I might end up losing WikiLinks, but if I can defeat racism by losing WikiLinks, then I will do it. So
you may have lost the battle, but you will win the war.
I'm going to try and get off here fairly quickly because it's too big. It's too much of a hot topic, and I just need to get off. So let me try and do something quite quickly. I can click Jump Jim Crow.
No.
I can click segregation and discrimination. Now, that could be interesting.
It could.
I think I'm going to click segregation. So there we go. Number 3. I'm on segregation, which has actually linked me to a page entitled, which I wish this didn't happen because this is quite irritating. When you click a link and it links you to a page that's not exactly as was advertised. So I'm now on the Wikipedia page for racial segregation in the United States. And I'm going to do a Control F, as Dean might have done, which we're allowed to do. We explained this in episode 1. That does a search of the page. We're allowed to do that. Otherwise, if we weren't, we would be reading thousands and thousands of words each podcast, and the podcast would probably last about 8 to 9 hours each, which, I mean, I don't think anyone wants that, but if you do, hit us up on the socials. We can maybe release a few 9-hour episodes if you want us to remove the Control F feature.
We can do a Le Mans style WikiLinks.
Yeah, where we just stay up on coffee all night long, and we can do a live cast. We could even work that out if you all want that. A live YouTube podcast where we wiki live and there's no editing.
Just lots of amphetamine.
Yes, that's right. Yes. And anyone who wants to pop advertisers want to get in on the show, just let us know, and you can associate your brands with blackface and
lots of amphetamine.
Yes. So Control F, and there is a click there for gentrification.
You've done it.
I'll read the start of the sentence. It says, in locations such as Washington, D.C., gentrification had resulted in development of new white neighborhoods in historically black inner cities. So there's my click.
Wow. I must admit, you're getting good at this.
I'm on gentrification in 4 clicks.
You are getting good. I'm devastated, to be fair.
I bet you thought it would be more clicks, as did I.
Well, to be honest, I hadn't read the wiki page for Captain Planet. And I was assuming you'd probably go down some route of environmentalism, which might have led to it. But I did not expect the main character of Gaia to be voiced by Whoopi Goldberg, which would have led us down the rabbit hole we've been down. And
that was a lucky spot for me to find Whoopi Goldberg, who I knew was involved in political activities.
Excellent. Well, there you go.
So I think we've already explained what gentrification is. I don't think we need to read anything on this page. I think people have understood it enough, and if they don't, just jump on Wikipedia and read about it.
Donate, mate. Donate.
Donate to who? Gentrification?
Yes.
Yes, there's a GoFundMe called Let's Gentrify Brixton. So you can jump on there and donate some money.
Donate.
So I've done that in 4. That's a very low amount of clicks, as you'll come to learn, I think, on this show. 4 is very good and will be extremely hard for Dean to beat, regardless of what I give him. I mean, there's a bit of an odd one coming up after the break, but who knows? Who knows? He might be able to do it in 4 or fewer.
You never know.
Before we go to the break, are you ready, Dean?
Are we farting out some fake news, or?
Let's do it. So, just to explain the story again. The story? That's not a story at all. It's a game. Just to explain the game again, as it's only episode 2. I give Dean 3 headlines. 2 of them are false. One is genuinely, I say genuinely, it's not genuinely true. One is from a genuine publication. Again, I said last time, the veracity of these stories really should be questioned. Like last week, we had supposedly a man who won the lottery, blew it all in 5 years, and then was caught giving dogs blowjobs in exchange for crisps. So I really do question these stories and where they come from, who backs them up, how they're fact-checked, but it was a story in a British paper.
I know, which really puts me at quite a disadvantage, to be fair, because
they're all probably essentially made up.
Exactly. So
really, what you should be doing here is just trying to work out my mind.
I think that's what I'll do. I'll change tact from thinking what's the most feasible to just thinking which one could potentially have come from the deep, dark crevasse of George's mind.
So they're quite small headlines this time. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short. These are 3 quite short ones.
Punchy.
But I'll read them now. So number 1, inventor killed by homemade bum camera. Why do you think he'd be looking up his bum?
Is it endoscopy?
I think that's right. I believe that's the name. Don't quote me.
No.
But you don't tend to do that on a homemade camera.
He might be one of those people that's Googled some symptoms and thought, you know what, NHS waiting times or COVID, whatever it is I'd rather not go to the hospital. Let's do it at home.
Nowadays, you just need a selfie stick, don't you, and a GoPro.
That's it, yeah. A GoPro and a piece of string.
Yeah, and then you're sorted. You've got a homemade bum camera.
Nice.
And it could kill you, possibly. Number 2, inventor killed by electric bum wiper. I don't know why you need a product to do that. It doesn't seem that much effort, but people like to produce things for everything, don't they?
They do. Like Wallace and Gromit.
Yes, maybe it's Wallace. Maybe that's the story.
Maybe. That's his... he's moved on from
to
wrong
making
trousers.
That's why they were wrong, because he shat in them, and so he made an electric bum wiper.
We've done it.
And the third one is inventor killed by electric bum plug.
Electric bum plug, as in a butt plug, as in a sexual device?
I suppose so. I guess he puts it up there and it can maybe expand or shrink to the size you want, kind of like the lens on a camera, you know? So you could maybe pop it up there with a diameter of like 2 centimeters, press a button and it will expand to 40 centimeters.
Well, all 3 of those are rather tragic, but let's have a recap.
So it's inventor killed by homemade bum camera, inventor killed by electric bum wiper, or inventor killed by electric bum plug.
I'm going to go for the wiper.
You think that's the true story? Why do you think that's the true story?
I don't know, because it's kind of the most practical. Like you say, why would you put a camera up your butt? Why would you invent your own butt plug when there probably is a vibrating butt plug, no doubt, on the internet somewhere?
But why would you make a bum wiper when you've got a hand?
He wasn't very good at wiping his butt, so he invented that. Who knows?
Okay, so your guess is the true story, or the published story, is inventor killed by electric bum wiper.
Yes.
Dean, you're correct.
Oh, come on.
So Dean got it on the first guess. That means the bastard gets a point.
Finally, my first point of the series.
It is. So you, if you do your WikiLink after the break in fewer than 4, you will have equaled the series on 2-2.
I can only hope, mate. I don't fancy the forfeit of the witch's milk.
Witch's milk in the has this been decided now as our official forfeit?
Well, we go through the series, and if by episode 5 we haven't come up with anything more disgraceful, then that will be it.
Now, if anyone wants to hit us on the social with suggestions, feel free. And episode 5 will be a special episode where we do the forfeit and have a general recap of all the fun and frolics we've had throughout the series. But if you do want to give us any suggestions for forfeits, make sure they work in an audio format. You can't tell us to do something that doesn't really work on radio. No.
Streaking through the House of Commons is probably doesn't really translate to radio, I'm afraid.
No, as funny as it would be, it would just be a sort of echoey voices of lords going, "Order! Well, look at that!" As one of us steals the mace and runs from Parliament. Because there's an interesting fact, I don't know if you know this, if the mace isn't in the Houses of Parliament, Parliament can't have discussions.
They can't sit.
Now, I've got 2 questions for you, Dean. Do you want to know a bit about the electric bum wiper story, or do you just want to fuck off and go to a break, and let's come back after that?
Let's go to a break.
Let's go to a break. You can all Google the story if you wanted. It's really not that exciting. Basically, he made an electric bum wiper. When he was testing it out, his scrotum got ensnared in the belt and tore his scrotum off.
Oh, and what publication was this in?
It's from the Sunday Sport, and it's an exclusive.
Oh, am I mistaken? Both this week's and last week's is from the same reputable newspaper.
I think you might be right. I think the last one was the Daily Sport. This is the Sunday Sport. Actually, that's probably the same paper, isn't it?
I believe so. It's the one with all the breasts and the little stars all over it, I believe, isn't it?
I mean, it's real trash. It's a really trashy UK newspaper, if you can even call it that.
No, I don't think you can. A bum rag is probably the best description.
And I mean, the way they write about these stories, I mean, they're supposedly writing about a man's death, yet it's full of funny double entendres about ball sacks and arseholes. Yeah. It really doesn't tally in my mind. I would very much question this story, but who knows?
Who knows, exactly.
Anyway, on that thrilling point, that thrilling event, we will go straight to part 2.
Put the kettle on.
I will. See you soon.
Teabag.
Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of the WikiLinks podcast. I'm leading 2-1 at the moment. I did my last WikiLink in 4 clicks, so Dean's going to have to get his in 3, which will probably be quite tricky. But you do never know. As you saw from before, you wouldn't have thought that I'd have done 4 clicks, would I? From Captain Planet to gentrification.
I wouldn't. So no, you've done well. I must admit, the man done well.
So you have to go from. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Rob Schneider to cheese.
Okay, well, I like it. I like your thought process.
Can you see why I linked those two?
Oh, not without offending him.
Oh, fuck offending Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider is a carrot.
That's exactly it. He's been in some truly fantastic highbrow comedies, hasn't he?
And some proper shite.
Yeah, that's a more accurate way of saying it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a film that I enjoyed. No, there's.
I mean, there is. I can think of one he's been in. He's been in. It's definitely not his film, but in fairness, he is funny in it, and it's one of my favourite movies.
Okay.
Home Alone 2.
He was in Home Alone 2?
He was the bellboy that works with Tim Curry.
Oh wow! Okay, it's
quite funny. He keeps getting given instead of being tipped money, he's tipped like used chewing gum.
Chewing gum and stuff, of course. Yeah,
and he keeps getting abused and knocked out and battered by Tim Curry and whatnot. It's quite funny. Yeah.
I love Home Alone, the first 2 anyway.
Yeah, they made about 7. I never really watched after 2.
But yeah, no, that's cool. There you go. I like a Rob Schneider film. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm looking through the rest. He's been in an awful lot of films, but that is certainly the only one out of what looks like about 60 films that I would even give any credit to. And Home Alone 2 was only his third credit acting.
It was all downhill from there. So
Judge Dredd, what a strange collection of films. Anyway, yeah. Did you have anything off the bat that you're thinking of? You're going to have to play very cleverly here.
I am. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is just trying to get to food straight away, ignoring the fact that his films are cheese, and not getting thrown off in any kind of
a cyclone.
That's it. So yes, I'm trying not to throw myself off here.
I mean, I was thinking. I mean, I can probably give you some of my ideas too. I suppose, seeing as as you're going to have to really try hard here, was possibly I could imagine in some of his films. They're so lowbrow that a character might at some point get covered in cheese or something ridiculous like that.
It.
And
exactly.
If you could think of a scene like that in any of his films, you might be able to go to that film and it might say something like popular scenes when Deuce Bigalow, let's say, is covered in cheese in a strip club and everyone loves that scene. It might link to cheese.
Exactly, yeah. Or 50 First Dates, where they shared some fondue on one of the dates.
Exactly, that's exactly it. Now, have you seen Deuce Bigalow or 50 First Dates?
I have actually seen both of those films.
Oh, right. Do they contain any scenes with cheese?
Well, I say I've seen them. They were on, but whether any of it actually sort of resonated at any level, no. I would
Probably
say.
not. So you won't remember whether they contain cheese.
Anything that I have seen, which is quite random, the comedic characters Schneider plays in these films include an overly enthusiastic Cajun man. Now, now this is actually something that I must admit I do like from Rob Schneider. This is one of his things that the whole "you can do it."
Is that him?
That's him, the guy who goes "you can do it" in a number of films like The Water Boy, Little Nicky. Now, Little Nicky wasn't a bad film, in fairness.
I didn't know that was him that started that whole meme of "you can do it." Maybe he's fantastic. Then maybe we've suddenly become a fan, have we?
I think we have. We've been turned.
We've been turned. His films are quality. We love Rob Schneider.
Yes, that's it. And he was also dropped from State Farm Insurance due to his anti-vaccination views.
I was just looking at that myself.
Very topical.
The last line of this is quite interesting. It says, in an interview with the Washington Times, Gonzalez, a woman that is obviously Lorenzo Gonzalez, she's pro-vaccine, I think a doctor, said she found the message from Rob Schneider to be disturbing, the one about anti-vaccinations. But upon calling back, she said, he was actually much nicer to me. But let's be honest, that's 20 minutes of my life I'll never get back, arguing that vaccines don't cause autism with Juice Bigelow, male gigolo. which is a real cracking comment, isn't it?
Well, who would have thought in this day and age when we've got vaxxers on one side and anti-vaxxers on the other that we could be having such a laugh about vaccinations, about vaccination and autism? Yes.
I mean, it really is a hilarious topic.
It really is.
So, cheese.
I'm going to go for Cajuns now.
Wow! Now that I did not think you'd go for that.
I've thrown you a curveball here, mate.
Yeah.
And because Cajun, I do believe, isn't Cajun something to do with French people?
I did not know that. Is it? The Cajuns, also known as the Acadians, are an ethnic group mainly living in the U.S. state of Louisiana. They also live in Canadian maritime provinces, consisting in part of the descendants of the original Acadian exiles, French speakers from Acadia. So French speakers, yeah, you're right. There's a link there.
Well, there you go. See, that's where being highly intelligent can help on this podcast.
Like we are.
Yeah.
So is that what you're going for? Is that your first click?
Well, it's got to be, hasn't it? Because I do believe going from Rob Schneider to Cajuns has a very good chance of taking me a little bit closer to the French stuff.
And speaking of like high intelligence now, I can tell you something very interesting. The French like cheese.
I didn't know that. Now
you're really excited.
I'm very excited.
So that's one click. You're on
one click.
Cajuns.
So I'm going to scroll down now. I'm probably going to click on folk beliefs. Why not? Let's see if there's
folk beliefs.
Cheese
based white black dichotomy.
What?
One of the clicks in here is white black dichotomy. If you want to get back to the discussions on gentrification and blackface,
I don't.
Well then, yeah, don't click that then.
No. But one folk custom is belief in a traiteur, which apparently is a healer.
A folk custom. Are you still on the page for Cajuns, or have you clicked off?
I am, and I've scrolled down. Well, I've clicked the content link to folk beliefs under Cajun folk beliefs. I
see. Okay.
Yes, and one of them is the healing by the traiteur or traiteur.
Are they are they a traitor?
Well, that's what I would read it as, but apparently no. They use a variety of Catholic prayer and medicinal remedies to treat a variety of ailments, including earaches, toothaches, warts, tumours, angina, and bleeding. Go for it.
See, we can't resist playing that, can we? It's just livens up the show.
Exactly. And apparently there's a werewolf called Loup Garou Or no, wait, sorry. The werewolf is called Rougarou. Excuse my pronunciation here, it's probably completely wrong. Which is a version of loup-garou, which is French for werewolf, that will hunt down and kill Catholics who do not follow the rules of Lent.
That's a really interesting little story. I like that. Now, did you follow the rules of Lent last Lent?
Yeah, I gave up on life itself, but other than that, no.
Yes, I committed suicide on Lent because I just gave up in general.
Yeah, I couldn't think of what to give up for Lent, so I killed myself.
Now, that's a nice positive note.
It is.
Have you ever given up anything for Lent?
No, no. I'd probably be more inclined to try Ramadan because back in the day I really hated eating, as you know.
Yes, that's true. You'd have found that easier.
Well, here we go. We're learning about Mardi Gras here as well.
Go on.
Now, Mardi Gras is actually French for Fat Tuesday.
Oh, wow, that definitely deserves one of these. Now, I really didn't know that. Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday.
No, that's amazing.
Is fat a clickable link? Because you might be able to click fat, and one of the reasons why people might get fat might be too much cheese.
I know. And it says here, Mardi Gras was historically a time to use up the foods that were not to be used during Lent, which included fat, eggs, and meat. Unfortunately, none of them are clickable links.
Oh no, that would have been getting you quite close there.
I know. I'm really gutted, actually, I must admit. I feel like I'm close here, and I don't want to have to do this forfeit if I can avoid it. So
now that I have seen a click for, there is some food in here. I don't know if you've spotted that yet.
I haven't, as such. No.
It's not cheese, but there are some links in here to.
Yeah. Cuisine.
Now, okay, that could possibly help you a bit there, couldn't it?
It could, mate. It could. We've got gumbo, which is a type of soup, apparently. Nothing about cheese, which is disappointing.
But any of these dishes, would they be eaten with cheese?
Unfortunately, being vegetarian, much of this food is making me feel quite ill.
You mean like this big red sausage that looks like an intestine?
That's what I keep hovering over somehow by mistake, and it's not helping me.
It doesn't look nice. Do you want to try and explain how it looks to the listener?
It looks like a rather large turd.
But the colour, as maybe a rather large turd if you've been eating nothing but beetroot paste.
Exactly that, yeah. Or perhaps if you just shat out your entire intestine, maybe.
That's probably more like it. Basically, it doesn't look appetizing.
I'm feeling like I just want to find something for France,
as opposed to going to food.
I think if I can actually just find a clickable link for France.
Have you Control F'd France?
I have. So you've got New France, but none of them seem to be clickable links.
There is something close to France, but it's not France itself. There is a link in there for French emigration, but I'm not seeing anything just for France.
I know. That's ridiculous, man.
You still have the click for white-black dichotomy.
I do. And to be honest, I'm getting closer to just clicking on that, just out of sheer distaste for the people who designed the links on this page, because it's quite shocking, really.
I mean, it's a shame we don't have a bit more knowledge, because they have some links to American states here, and I'm sure one of those American states must have a national dish of cheese, because the Americans love a bit of cheese.
They do, exactly. I know.
I mean, isn't the national food of the USA cheeseburger?
It is.
So that's another potential route for you there, but you have to do it in 2 to get a point.
Well, you know what? I've scrolled up to the top here in an attempt to start again, and I have seen they've developed a vibrant culture, the Cajun French in Louisiana, which includes folkways, music, and cuisine. I'm just going to click on Cajun cuisine because it's got some pies and apples in there and stuff. Surely, being French and American, they've got to love their cheese. It's like a double negative if it's not true.
So you're going for Cajun cuisine? Yes,
I'm going in. Okay, so here we are. This is my second click. Even.
Second click.
So if I do it, if
you can link from this page to cheese, you've got another point, and you've equalled the season on 2-2.
That's it.
You've equalised, Dean.
Potentially, if I can find cheese on this page now. I'm looking down. I'm going to do a Control F, and there's 2 options on here. So one of them is head cheese, which is unfortunately is a clickable link for head cheese. That's disappointing.
Oh, so close. Hit the post.
Hit the post. And the other one is hog's head cheese.
Is that a clickable link?
It is, but it links to the same bloody page, doesn't it?
As what?
as head cheese.
Does it now? Right. Interesting.
Yep.
There's a click in here for dairy farming, Dean.
There is. Oh, I'm definitely going to be able to do it in 4 clicks.
So you might be able to equalize and then stop me getting a point.
Exactly. Which, I think at this stage is probably the best that I can hope for.
Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to head cheese? Are you going to go to dairy farming?
Well, dairy farming will take me there, but I think it's got to be hog's head cheese or head cheese, whatever you want to call it, because that's just as much as the when you hover over it, it looks absolutely vile.
Now, is that little oblong of compressed old-looking meat?
It is, which is a cold-cut piece of meat jelly thing made from the flesh of the head of a calf or pig.
Oh, now that really makes me... Now, I'm not trying to get political here, but this really makes me quite glad I'm vegan.
Yeah, definitely.
As do lots of these things on this page, probably. And when we get to cheese, it might push you over the edge, to be fair.
It might. I think if anything's going to turn me vegan, it may well be head cheese.
Is that your number 3?
Oh, that's disgusting, man.
Is this head cheese that you're reading?
It's definitely. It's turning my head.
Typically set in aspic that originated in Europe, usually eaten cold or at room temperature. The dish is, despite the name, not a dairy cheese. The parts of the head used in the dish vary, though commonly do not include the brain, eyes, or ears of the animal. Oh, well, that's nice.
Oh, well, that's fine then.
Yeah, that's okay.
Let's try
we'll have some. Yeah. The tongue and sometimes the feet and heart of the animal may be included. The dish is also made using trimmings from more commonly eaten cuts of pork and veal, with the addition of gelatin and binding as a binding agent. Head cheese may also be made without using the flesh from the head of an animal. Oh, nice. It's lovely, isn't it?
And it's quite interesting when I'm scrolling down here. Apparently, in Australia, it's known as brawn or pressed wurst.
It's the worst pressed thing ever.
Yes, but apparently they do it in Trinidad as well.
Not something I've ever encountered in the times I've spent in Trinidad.
It's served or sold at most social gatherings, such as parties, all-inclusive fetes and sporting competitions. It's rather fortunate that you're such a recluse.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that because in Trinidad, especially my dad's generation, grew up eating chicken feet, pig ear, pig snout, pig tail, cow heel. It's basically, I'm sure this is down to the latter days of slavery where the Indians and the Africans were basically given the shit cuts of meat, like the ones I just named. And the white slave owners got the chicken breast, pig rump or whatever it is, the nicest pieces of meat. Whereas the non-whites have ended up developing now a cultural taste for the most obscure cuts of meat.
Rank shit.
Because, I mean, when you first eat an animal, you're not going to cut off its head and chomp into that, are you? If you really want to eat an animal, you're going to pick a fleshy or fatty piece of the animal, aren't you?
You'd think, yeah.
You're not going to go for a chicken's foot. There's a click in here for the traditional slaughter of pigs.
I feel quite sad.
Do you?
I do.
Have we brought it down?
We've really lowered the bar.
Which bit saddened you most, Dean?
I think the bit when we were talking about the slavery and the fact that there was discarded. Didn't we touch on this in the previous episode where a piece of bread was thrown to the peasants, like after it was soaked in all the food? And
that has been spoken about on either the pilot series or the previous episode, possibly, where a sandwich originated because bread was used as a plate to eat your food off, and then the bread was thrown to the peasants.
It was like thrown to the dog or the peasant that was by the end of the table or something.
Yes, equal, aren't they,
Oh, definitely, yeah. So, yeah, and it does say here that meat jellies made this way were commonly a peasant food. So, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I thought. I always thought that's where my dad and his generation and before him developed taste for such strange meat.
Yeah. As the Monty Python crew say, if you eat ham and jam and spam a lot, you're a cunt.
Yes, there you go.
I don't think the Monty Python crew say that. But they did make a thing called spam a lot, didn't they?
They did. I think all of that was true, apart from the cunt at the end.
But anyway, back to the podcast. It does appear that I have drawn and denied you the point this week. And yes, I can see
This
there.
cheese is right there.
It's right there, despite the name, not a dairy cheese. So I clicked on cheese, and here we go. 4 clicks.
Click. That's number 4. That's remarkable. We've both done them in 4 clicks. I did not think that Captain Planet to gentrification and Rob Schneider to cheese could be done in a combined 8 clicks.
We smashed it.
We really did. It just shows how good we are at this game.
We are, exactly. Next week, we'll just be doing it in 1 or 2 clicks, and everyone can just not even bother tuning in.
And where the points are, I'm still leading 2-1 because we drew on that last game, didn't we? 4 clicks each, so neither of us gets a point in that case.
I cancelled you out.
You did, so he's actually pulling it back slowly. I started the episode 2-0 up. It's now 2-1 to me, so he's catching up. Now, just before we go, we do a little shout out, and I was very polite, wasn't I, in the first half of the show? I asked you if you would like to go first, and I think I'll ask you again. Do you want to do your shout out first or second?
I'm going to go first because I'm quite excited about this shout out.
Okay, great. Go on then. Who do you think deserves a plug, Mr. Dean?
Well, last week I shouted out Harry Potter and the portrait of a large pile of what looked like a large pile of ash. Is that right?
Or did you actually shout that out, or did you shout out artificial intelligence?
I think broadly I was shouting out artificial intelligence, but specifically relating to that
was the Harry Potter. Okay.
Yeah. The way you shouted out charity, but specifically you were discussing your own...
The Brave the Shave.
Brave the Shave, exactly. So this week I'm going to shout out a personal hero of both of ours, your namesake, George Harrison, and his album Brainwashed.
Oh, fantastic. Wow, what a brilliant shout-out. I'll let you say what you want to say about that.
I do believe in this day and age, good music it's not few and far between, because that's kind of offensive to all the modern artists. But this album really was, I don't know, it just has a lot to say, but in such a beautiful way. And if you haven't heard it, I would give it a go. Listen to the album in its entirety from start to finish.
In the order it was released as well, I would say, in the track listing that it was released in.
Exactly. It's not a concept album as such, but it's one of those albums that you just need to listen to it from start to finish. Don't go on YouTube and have adverts in between. Either go and buy it or do what you can to try and get the full album and just listen to it in its entirety. And I do believe it's a really beautiful album that everyone needs to hear. It's one for the bucket list.
It really is. There's some really fantastic tunes in there. The one that instantly springs to mind is Rising Sun, which is a fantastic song I believe George Harrison wrote when he was aware that he didn't really have much longer left. He was quite ill. And it's really about the creation of the universe, about life recycling. A genuinely brilliant song with some lovely orchestral sounds. And I think a lovely line that says, universe at play inside your DNA, and you're 1 billion years old today, which I really love that line.
Yeah, definitely. And it was released posthumously on the 18th of November, 2002, almost a year after his death at the young age of 58.
That's right. He didn't quite get to finish it, did he? He wrote it and recorded the basic guitar and vocal tracks, and it was left like that. It was finished by Jeff Lynne and Danny Harrison, George's son.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that definitely deserved a shout.
That's a really good shout out. I like that. Everyone definitely check out that album. I also can't recommend that enough. Mine is a book, or it's in the form of a manga, but it's a book. It's called Vagabond. I bought it originally, assuming it was just a little fun thing to read. Actually, my wife bought it for me because I don't tend to go for that sort of thing. I assumed it was just a paint by numbers samurai book, but what it really is a partly fictionalized historical document about Miyamoto Musashi, who is one of the greatest swordsmen of the 16th century in Japan. And so I only thought he was a swordsman, but he turns out he was actually a well-respected philosopher and writer. And this book, it's not just action-packed violence and silliness. It really is the story of a man journeying from childhood to adulthood and basically wrestling with demons and becoming a very deep philosophical man. It really is it's a fantastic read if anyone wants to give it a go.
I think if I was going to start somewhere, that sounds like a very good suggestion.
That would certainly be a place to start. I mean, it's manga's a very vast, strange world to get into. It could be very hard to sort of find your way into it, really. But it's not the type that most people associate when they say manga or anime. They think of, bright colors, craziness, weirdness, maybe tentacle creatures and all this sort of stuff. But this is a very...
My favorite.
Well, it doesn't. Vagabond does not feature any tentacle creatures, I'm afraid. It's all very down to earth and genuine and sort of philosophical.
No tentacle rape. Well, in that case, I'm out.
Yeah, so if you're looking for tentacle rape, don't do that. Maybe you can shout that out next week. Maybe,
yeah. It does look like, I'm just glancing at the Wikipedia page now so that I don't feel totally ignorant. And yeah, it looks like some interesting characters. A Zen Buddhist monk whose words are brutally acute, and honest.
Yes, I remember this character. I loved his philosophies in the book because the book is very much about inner strength and power, and it's not just about outer strength and becoming a samurai. It's more about inner strength. And now, haven't we ended on a positive note there? George Harrison, Miyamoto Musashi, a great philosopher, after we looked into blackface and Rob Schneider.
Can you believe we actually raised the tone for once in our lives?
Can't you see how vast and interesting this show is? I think if the first episode didn't hook people, Dean, this is the one that will.
Yes, the first episode was shite, but this has been all right.
This has been great. So even if we say so ourselves, I bet you're all eager to listen to episode 3. We'll be back this time next week. Again, like I said, I'm leading 2-1, so it's completely open. Either of us can win the show and subject the other to that witch's milk forfeit,
or something even more terrible,
or something even worse. I think the scary thing is that the witch's milk would probably be the best of anything that we think of.
Most likely, yeah. I bet there's far worse. So let's just comfort ourselves that we may only have to request witch's milk in a coffee shop.
And do you want to just tell us quickly, anyone that's listening to you, what is witch's milk, Dean?
It's no.
No, you can all Google it yourself. And there you go. We brought the tone back down to the normal level right before we go, just to keep things on the level playing field. So I'll say bye, and then Dean will say bye, and then we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening, everybody. That was great fun. See you later.
Bye.
This has been a Dating Tips for Guys production, with special thanks to FreezerFix and Audacity. Follow the WikiLinks podcast on Twitter at WikiLinksPod, Instagram at WikiLinksPodcast, or email us at wikilinks.podcast@gmail.com.